we go to our fan-submitted questions presented by Xfinity, our Xfinity third chair. And the first one is an interesting one, and I kind of already think I know the answer, but I'll pose it to you anyway. Should Oregon have moved up to number one after their win over Ohio State this week?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that where they are is probably right. I think that, I don't know that there is a dominant team in college football right now. I think all the really good teams all still have some areas of question or whatever. When the season started, people were saying Georgia and Ohio State seemed to be like a cut above everybody else. Well, they're not, they aren't. And so right now, Texas, to me, maybe looks the most complete. And we'll find out a little bit more about them this week when they host Georgia. So I think where Oregon is right where they should be at this point.
Yeah, listen, Texas has had some quote-unquote tests so far. They went to Michigan early in the season, just had the Red River in which they dominated, but this is going to be a different level where you've got a top 5 team and you've got to see if you can make it happen. So we'll see what happens after this week, but I'm with you. Texas has done a little too much to really make it a legitimate argument that Oregon after that. If Oregon had dominated that game, maybe it's a different discussion, but it was a narrow victory. It's why Ohio State's only dropped down to 4 instead of dropping out of the top 5 entirely. Second question, and I am interested in your answer because I kind of have my thoughts on this, but what's holding USC back?
Well, we haven't had them, right? So I haven't studied them. I don't know. It just seems like inconsistency, because at times they've looked really good. They looked really good against LSU in the opener. Now they're sitting at 3-3, and LSU hasn't lost a game since then, right? They look good, and when they dismantled Wisconsin, particularly in the second half, and we've seen what Wisconsin has done the last couple of weeks. So I don't know that I have any particular answer. I thought their defense was playing a lot better this season than what I've seen, but then in the second half this week, they didn't, So, and then even in this game this past week, they give up the lead. They can't keep the lead. They miss a field goal in overtime, which allowed Penn State to win with a kick. So it just a lack of consistency. I think the talent is there, but they just haven't clicked and been consistent enough to win in some big games.
And that's exactly it. The way I see it is, you look at their 3 losses this year. They were up in the fourth quarter against Michigan. They were very tight all the way against Minnesota on the road. And they were up a couple scores early and in the fourth quarter against Penn State. They were in position to win all 3 games. So this is not like it's a massive fix that needs to happen. It's not like there's gaping holes in this roster. To your point, the talent is there. It just feels like they almost need to learn how to win. And there is an intangible skill that comes with that. And it's a group that, I think the one thing we see with USC these last 3 years under Lincoln Riley, there's a lot of turnover on both sides of the ball. And certainly now with a newer quarterback, I know Miller Moss has been there, but he wasn't the starter last year. And I mean, we see it even with Drew Aller. Do you think Drew Aller converts both 4th downs a year ago in his first year as the starter? Obviously, we don't know for sure, but my betting answer would be no. I think there is something with that experience. And so you almost have to go through these tough losses, these tight losses, to learn how to win these tight games. You mentioned the same thing with Ohio State and having not been in that type of environment. And sure enough, Oregon prevails on Saturday.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a really good point. And there's a real fine line in football, whether you're talking about college football, pro football, whatever, but there's a very fine line between hoping to win and expecting to win. And when you get in those kind of games in the fourth quarter, when you have to make a 3rd down throw, a 4th down conversion, those things, it shows up the group or the team or the individuals that have an expectation of making that play, an expectation of winning. And you're not just hoping to win or trying not to lose, and there's a big difference in that. And it shows up in a lot of different ways and in those critical areas, critical downs, critical parts of the field, critical kicks, all those kind of things, is where that shows up.
season far from over for them. They've got a lot of time to make up some ground, and we'll see how they do that. You can submit your questions to the show every week by using the hashtag Big Talk.